Welcome everybody. Today we are going to look at the movie Sunset Boulevard from 1950 and find out why that movie is so good. Sunset Boulevard is an enduring film. It has a lot to say, even a lot to say about things that happen today. There is a line in the movie when Joe Gillis says there's nothing wrong with a woman being 50 as long as she's not trying to be 25. And I think that has a lot to say about culture today also. Men and women so scared of aging that we do anything not to look our age. But if Sunset Boulevard is anything, it's an indictment of Hollywood that also still rings true today. Of they build these stars up, and when they get to a certain age, they throw them away. There's no looking back. At the center of the story of Sunset Boulevard 2 is it starts with a dead man in a pool, and a narrator comes along, and that narrator is Joe Gillis, who is the man who is dead in the pool, and you are going to find out how he died. And the shot of him is in the pool floating dead at the beginning of the movie is one of the most iconic scenes in movie history. You've probably, if you've never seen this movie, might have seen that image of the dead man floating face down in the pool. Sunset Boulevard came out in 1950. It was directed by Billy Wilder. It was written by Billy Wilder along with Charles Brackett, and it stars William Holden as Joe Gillis. It also stars Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond, and she plays the silent film star who was big back in the day, one of the biggest stars there ever was. And once she aged, the phone stopped ringing, which kind of mirrors Gloria Swanson's own life. She was a huge movie star back in the day. In fact, for 5 years running, in the 20s, Gloria Swanson was the biggest star of Paramount Studios, and this is a Paramount picture. And she has a line in the movie where she said, "This studio would, or Paramount wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me." And it kind of is true. For William Holden, this was kind of his star-making vehicle. 1950 was a very good year for William Holden between this movie and Born Yesterday. Gloria Swanson, on the other hand, this was seen as a lot as her comeback movie. Like I said, she was a huge star for Paramount back in the day. She did work with Cecil B. DeMille. She did work with Eric von Stroheim, who plays Max the Butler. He was a director and an actor back in the day, but he does play the butler in this movie, and kind of ended up resenting his role because everybody remembers him as now is the butler in Sunset Boulevard. But going back to Gloria Swanson, she was not quite like her character. She actually, once her film career died down, moved out east to New York and began dabbling in television and the stage. So she knew when she wasn't wanted by the pictures anymore and made a way for herself in other mediums of the entertainment industry in ways of acting. Bravo to her for that, but this was her comeback film, and she did garner her third Oscar nomination for acting for Sunset Boulevard. You do also have a lot of old movie stars playing themselves in this movie also. Like I said, Cecil B. DeMille, although not a movie star, a director that started in the silent film era where he did direct. Gloria Swanson, Hedda Hopper, the legendary gossip columnist at this time, plays herself. You have Buster Keaton playing himself, Anna Q. Nilsson, H.B. Warner, who were all big stars in the silent days. They play her friends, and they play themselves in this movie, but they play her friends from back in the day. You might notice H.B. Warner as Mr. Gower from It's a Wonderful Life. For the time, this was quite a scathing film for Hollywood to make, and it was made by a major studio in Paramount who let them use their studio in the movie. It is shot in some scenes on the back lot of Paramount Studios very noticeably. It uses its logo. It uses the famous gate. A lot of critical response from the film community for the messaging and the theme of this, of how Hollywood kind of chews you up and spits you out, whether you're an older actor or a writer trying to make it in this business. It didn't like the fact that they were biting the hand that feeds them. So there was a lot of backlash from the industry about this movie, even though it is a classic and Hollywood seemingly loves movies about itself, but wasn't ready for the critical eye at this point. This film is also where some of the famous movie quotes in film history comes from. You have the quote of Norma Desmond saying, "We didn't need dialogue, we had faces," talking about her critique of modern movies and all of their talking. And Norma Desmond saying after Joe Gillis realizes who she is and says, "You used to be big," and Norma Desmond's response to that is, "I am big. It's the pictures that got small." And probably the most famous quote from the movie is, "All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up," which is often misquoted as, "I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille." Even if you've never seen this movie, you're probably familiar with some of those famous quotes. At the box office, Sunset Boulevard was a huge hit. People loved it. It made over $2.5 million at the box office, and in 1950, that was a huge sum of money. The problem was that the movie cost $1.6 million to make, so it wasn't a moneymaker for the studio, even though it was a big hit. The Norma Desmond house in the movie was one of those palatial Hollywood mansions. It's actually a real mansion, or it was a real mansion. It's been torn down. It was at the time owned by J. Paul Getty. One of his ex-wives lived in it at the time, and she let the movie studio film the movie there. Besides the fee for filming there, one of the stipulations is that they build the pool where the final scene where Joe Gillis was killed and is found floating. But the studio did build that pool for them, but they kind of didn't make a functioning pool. It had no filtration system, so it really couldn't be used as a pool. That house is used for another movie 5 years later, 1955's Rebel Without a Cause. The mansion that they're in and they play house plus the pool is used in that movie. And that was right before it actually was torn down. And now I believe there's an office building in its place. The character of Norma Desmond, it is modeled after actual actresses from the Hollywood silent era. One of the inspirations was Mary Pickford, who lived in seclusion now and was hardly ever seen. She was actually offered the role and she was insulted by the offer. It also is inspired by Mae Murray and Clara Bow, both who had well-noted struggles with their mental health. For the character of Joe Gillis, Montgomery Clift was actually the first person who took the role, and he actually dropped out because he was afraid that it was too much like a part that he already played in the movie from 1949, The Heiress. Plus, it kind of mirrored something that was real in his own life and didn't want to be known as this playboy young cad who was being kept by an older woman. The photos that are Norma Desmond younger in her heyday in the film are actual photos of Gloria Swanson in her heyday when she was a huge movie star. The movie that Joe Gillis and Norma Desmond are watching in the movie is actually one of Gloria Swanson's old films that she made with Eric von Stroheim, who plays Max the Butler in the film. The film is Queen Kelly from 1932. At one of the first screenings for this film, Paramount Studios invited a bunch of the old Hollywood stars from the silent era to the screening, and they loved the movie. Unlike some of the industry insiders, they stood up and cheered at the end because I think they realized that it is really an indictment of how they were treated at the time. A lot of them just cast away, and they loved it showing their side of the story, if you will. So for the 1951 Oscars, this movie was up for 11 Academy Awards, and it ended up winning 3 of them. William Holden was nominated for Best Actor. Erich von Stroheim was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Gloria Swanson was nominated for Best Actress. Nancy Olson was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Nancy Olson, of course, played the role of Betty Schaefer. It was nominated for Best Art Direction for a black and white film, which it actually won that award, so that was one of the 3. Best Cinematography, black and white. Billy Wilder was nominated for Best Director. He was nominated for Best Film Editing. He was nominated for Music Score, which it did win for that. Of course, it was nominated for Best Picture. It was nominated for Best Writing, Story, and Screenplay, which it actually won. And that is significant because it began filming where only 61 pages of the script was finished. So they were actually writing this movie as they were filming it. And the 1951 Academy Awards was a significant year in the Academy history. You have, in 1950, the release of several movies that are considered some of the best movies in film history. And at that 1951 Academy Awards, you have a lot of them competing for the awards. One of them, which was seen as a big upset, was Best Actress, where you had, of course, Gloria Swanson nominated for Sunset Boulevard. You had Bette Davis nominated for All About Eve. You had Judy Holliday nominated for Born Yesterday, as well as Anne Baxter for All About Eve and Eleanor Parker for Caged. And it was quite the upset that year when Judy Holliday, although no knocking Judy Holliday in Born Yesterday, but people were shocked when either Bette Davis or Gloria Swanson didn't win the award for Best Actress that year. In the Best Picture category, you have All About Eve, who was the winner that year for Best Picture. Being nominated. You had Born Yesterday. Both Born Yesterday and Sunset Boulevard were nominated for Best Picture, and they both starred William Holden. It was a banner year for him, like I said before. Father of the Bride was nominated for Best Picture, and King Solomon's Mines was nominated. So those are the Best Picture nominees, and you have some really heavy hitters in there. Speaking of William Holden, who he went up against that night for Best Actor, was Jose Ferrer in Cyrano de Bergerac. He ends up winning the award, but also you have The Magnificent Yankee, you have Louis Calhern, you have Jimmy Stewart for Harvey, and Spencer Tracy for Father of the Bride. 1950 was also the year that The Asphalt Jungle came out, and Samson and Delilah came out that year, which happened to be the film that Cecil B. DeMille was filming during his cameo appearance in Sunset Boulevard. And although not nominated for Best Costume Design, Edith Head, who, if you've watched my other videos, she was quite a prominent costume designer back in the day. She was the costume designer for Sunset Boulevard, and although not nominated for an Oscar for Sunset Boulevard, she was nominated that year for All About Eve and Samson and Delilah. So in conclusion, Sunset Boulevard deserves its place as one of the classics of Hollywood. It has exceptional storytelling, strong performances, and has quite the theme of fame, obsession, aging, and what the price of success cost a person. So if you've never seen Sunset Boulevard from 1950, you should seek this movie out and watch it. So again, I want to thank you all for joining me. My name is Stacia and I love movies, and this is my little movie corner of the internet where I just like to talk about classic films, and I would love you to join me. I would love to get to, right now I'm just saying, 200 subscribers. See how fast I can get to 200 subscribers. My ultimate goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers. So I invite you to help me reach that goal. If you've liked this video, check out more of my videos, subscribe, and I would love you to comment on the movie because I love to get the discussion going about film. Tell me what you thought of the movie Sunset Boulevard. Tell me other movies that you loved from the year 1950 as well. Or if you have any suggestions of movies that I should do reviews of, just let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. But I love you all. See you next time. Bye.